Let me ask you a question. And I want you to really think about this. How long are you going to wait before you do what you've been called to do? See, the difference between winners and wishers is action. The word says, faith without works is dead. That means you can pray all you want, meditate all you want, visualize all you want, but if you don't take action, nothing moves. And here's the truth. You're never going to feel like it. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions, because the perfect time is a myth created by procrastination to protect your comfort zone. Now here's the hook. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you were destined to be. You think success is about talent. No, success is about execution. Some of you have notebooks full of ideas, journals filled with goals, visions board glued to your wall, but nothing's happening. Why? Because the enemy of execution is hesitation. The difference between a 6-figure earner and a 7-figure kingdom entrepreneur isn't knowledge. It's applied knowledge. It's not potential, it's performance. You have to force yourself to take action even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Listen, you're not always going to feel motivated. That's why you need to build a system stronger than your mood. People ask me all the time, Myron, how do I stay consistent? And I tell them, consistency is a decision, not an emotion. It's a covenant you make with your future. Some of you are praying for a harvest, but you haven't sown the seed of action. You want results without responsibility. But let me be clear, God will not do for you what He's already given you the power to do for yourself. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer this with brutal honesty. What exactly are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the perfect moment? Are you waiting until you feel ready? Are you waiting for a sign from heaven when God already gave you a strategy? Too many people are stuck in the cycle of preparation, procrastination, and prayer without ever moving into performance. And I'm going to tell you right now, you do not need more time. You need more movement. One of the greatest lies the enemy ever sold you is that you need to feel something before you do something. And that's not how divine progress works. The word says that faith without works is dead. That means faith without action is just a fancy way of doing nothing with a Bible verse attached to it. And here's the truth that most people don't want to face. Your next level is not waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on you to move. There is no such thing as perfect timing. That's a myth designed to keep dreamers dreaming instead of doing. Favor flows when you go. Power shows up when you step out. Provision is attracted to motion. But many people are parked in the driveway of hesitation, hoping God will send them a full tank before they even start the car. Let me tell you, God doesn't steer parked cars. You've got to start moving. Here's the hook. Clarity comes through movement, not meditation. You won't figure everything out before you start. In fact, most of your answers are hidden on the other side of your first step. God didn't tell Noah what would happen after the rain. He just told him to build the ark. He didn't give Abraham the whole map. He just said, go. The favor came after the movement. The blessing came because of obedience, not before it. And let me say this loud for the people in the back: waiting is not a strategy. Sitting still is not a plan. Hoping for success is not the same thing as positioning for success. You want God to move heaven and earth, but you won't even move your feet. And then you wonder why nothing's changing. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you won't do what you already know. You've been equipped. You've been empowered. You've been anointed. But none of that means anything if you don't engage. Some of you are praying for momentum, and God is saying, I'm waiting on motion. You're asking for increase, and heaven's asking for initiative. You want doors to open, but you won't knock. Listen to me, action is the activation code for favor. Obedience is the unlock key to overflow. You keep asking for God to open doors, and God is saying, why would I open a door for someone who won't walk through it? The breakthrough isn't waiting in your prayer closet. It's waiting in your calendar, in the phone call you won't make, in the course you won't launch, in the idea you keep sitting on. Stop burying your gift beneath layers of fear, laziness, and excuses. Don't spiritualize your hesitation. God's not going to do for you what he's already given you the ability to do for yourself. Let me give you this last hook. Movement multiplies favor. It doesn't take perfect steps. It takes faithful ones. When you move, you release a signal to the marketplace, to the people assigned to you, and to heaven itself that you're ready. Ready for growth. Ready for responsibility. Ready for increase. So stop waiting for everything to align. Stop waiting for it to feel good. Stop waiting to be in the mood. Get up. Move, act. Because action is not just movement. It's obedience in motion. Most people lose in life not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they depend on their feelings to determine their actions. And that's one of the biggest traps you can fall into. See, if you only act when you feel like it, you will never achieve greatness. The life you're called to live, the business you're called to build, the impact you're called to make, doesn't care about how you feel. It only responds to what you do. And this is the truth that separates the consistent achievers from the chronic starters. Discipline always beats emotion. You can't build a championship life on a minor league mindset. And one of the marks of a minor league mindset is emotional decision making. I don't feel like doing it today. I don't have the energy. I'm not in the mood. That kind of thinking will keep you broke, stuck, and average. Because while you're waiting for inspiration, someone else is working in discipline. While you're checking your mood, someone else is checking tasks off their list. And here's the hook. The people who win are not the most motivated, they are the most committed. Motivation is a burst. Discipline is a system. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is transformational. When you rely on motivation, you're at the mercy of your emotions. But when you build discipline, you take control of your destiny. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It just does what needs to be done. And if you're going to be successful in life, in business, in calling, then you've got to rewire your mindset to act independently of your mood. Because moods change, but missions don't. Most people try to manage their success around their feelings instead of managing their feelings around their success. That's backwards. You're not supposed to serve your emotions. Your emotions are supposed to serve your execution. Some days you're going to feel powerful. Other days you're going to feel tired, distracted, even discouraged. But champions get up and execute anyway. And here's why. How you feel does not determine what's real. What you do determines what becomes real. If you look at every high performer, spiritually, financially, physically, there is one thing they all have in common: consistency. And you don't get consistency through excitement. You get it through discipline. You think Olympic athletes feel like training every day. You think successful entrepreneurs feel like pushing through resistance. No, they've simply mastered the art of doing what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel in the moment. That's discipline. That's emotional maturity. And that's how you separate yourself from the masses. Let me hit you with this Every excuse you've ever made was wrapped in a feeling. I'm too tired. I'm overwhelmed. I just need a break. Those aren't facts. They're feelings. And feelings are temporary visitors that try to make permanent decisions for you. If you don't dominate your emotions will dominate your destiny. But when you show up consistently, when you wake up early, when you stick to your plan, when you make the calls, even when you're tired, you're telling your emotions that they don't run your life. Discipline is the muscle that carries your calling. And like any muscle, it grows through resistance. Every time you act in alignment with your mission instead of your mood, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you show up and follow through, even when it's hard, you're becoming the kind of person who can handle more influence, more money, more opportunity. And that's the real reward, not just success, but becoming the person success can trust. So if you're waiting for a wave of motivation to hit before you get serious, stop. That wave isn't coming. You don't need a wave, you need a routine. You need structure. You need standards that don't shift with your mood. And here's the last hook. Your breakthrough is not in your feelings, it's in your follow through. Get disciplined, stay consistent, and execute regardless of how you feel. That's how you win. We've all heard the phrase, knowledge is power. But I'm going to challenge that today. Because knowledge is not power. It's potential power. Knowledge becomes power only when it's applied. There are a lot of intelligent people living broke, discouraged, and defeated lives, not because they don't know what to do, but because they refuse to do what they know. The marketplace doesn't reward intellect, it rewards implementation. The kingdom doesn't multiply theory, it multiplies obedience. And that's the difference maker. You've got books on your shelf, webinars in your history, journals filled with strategies. But none of that matters if it just sits there. You're not going to think your way into transformation. You've got to act your way into alignment. Most people are busy collecting information, but never converting that information into execution. And I'll tell you what that really is. It's a sophisticated form of procrastination. When you hide behind learning, what you're really doing is delaying responsibility. You're wearing preparation as a disguise for fear. Here's the hook. Information without implementation is deception. You're lying to yourself, telling yourself you're making progress, when all you're really doing is hoarding data. Real progress doesn't happen when you know more. It happens when you do more with what you know. God is not looking for experts. He's looking for executors. You keep waiting for the next big revelation, but heaven is waiting for you to move on the last instruction you already received. Let me break it down. Success doesn't belong to the most educated. It belongs to the most activated. Some of the wealthiest people in the world don't have fancy degrees, but they understood the power of applying one good idea with consistency. You don't need another certification to start. You need courage. You don't need to master everything. You need to execute something. The anointing flows when your feet move, not just when your mind thinks. There are people right now who know less than you, have fewer resources than you, but they're ahead of you. Why? Because they move. They take messy action. They don't wait to be perfect. They start and let the process shape them. You've got all the tools. You've got all the training. But you're still stuck at the starting line because you keep confusing learning with launching. The breakthrough is not in the next book. It's in the bold step you're afraid to take. Let me say this to you plainly. God didn't give you knowledge to admire it. He gave you knowledge to multiply it. That means you have a responsibility to steward what you know. Every time you sit on a strategy, every time you bury a gift, every time you delay what you've already been shown, you're not just wasting time, you're wasting purpose. Purpose is tied to movement. Favor is tied to obedience. Harvest is tied to action. So what are you doing with what you know? One of the biggest lies people believe is that knowing the right thing will eventually lead to the right result. But you can know how to win and still lose if you never execute. You can know how to build wealth and still stay broke if you never apply the principles. Knowing how to change your life doesn't change your life. Only action does that. Here's the last hook I'll give you. Applied knowledge is heaven's signal that you're ready for more. When God sees that you're faithful with the little, when you do something with what you've already received, He releases more. More wisdom, more favor, more capacity. But you've got to take the first step. You've got to activate what you already carry. Stop sitting on power and start moving in it. You don't need more content. You need more commitment. Take what you know and go do something with it. Fear has one job: to keep you still, to keep you questioning, overthinking, and hesitating until the moment of opportunity passes. And if you don't get serious about mastering fear, fear will master you. The truth is, fear is not the problem. The problem is the agreement you've made with it. You've let fear speak louder than your assignment. You've let fear have more influence than your vision. And now you're calling it wisdom, calling it timing, calling it caution. But let's be honest, it's just fear dressed in logic. Let me give it to you straight. Fear is a liar, and you've been listening to it like it's a mentor. Fear will never tell you the truth about what you're capable of. It will always exaggerate the risk and minimize your power. It will whisper every worst case scenario in your ear, hoping you forget who you are and what you carry. And if you keep waiting until you're not scared to move, you'll stay stuck for the rest of your life. Because fear doesn't go away. You grow through it. You go with it. You move in spite of it. That's the hook right there. You don't need to feel fearless. You just need to do it scared. You think the people winning out here aren't scared. Of course they are. But the difference is they don't let fear make decisions. They show up anyway. They launch anyway. They speak anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's obedience in the presence of fear. It's choosing your calling over your comfort. It's choosing your purpose over your panic. Fear only has one strategy: intimidation. It doesn't have real power. It just creates the illusion that it does. Fear is a mirage. It shows you something terrible that might happen if you step out. But here's the reality. The greatest threat isn't what fear shows you, it's what fear costs you. Because every time you bow to fear, you delay your destiny. Every time you let fear talk you out of movement, you forfeit momentum. And that's expensive. Some of you are out here praying for courage, and God is saying, I already gave you everything you need, move anyway. You're not going to get courage and then take the step. You're going to take the step, and then courage is going to meet you in motion. That's the pattern of faith. That's the process of progress. Heaven doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to boldness. It responds to faith in action, not fear in retreat. Let me tell you something you already know in your spirit. Your next level is on the other side of your greatest fear. That thing you keep avoiding, the call you won't make, the room you won't enter, the decision you keep postponing. That's not random. That's spiritual warfare. That's the resistance standing between your current level and your God-ordained breakthrough. And the only way to defeat it is to move right through the middle of it. You've got to stop treating fear like a stop sign. It's not a no. It's a signal that you're getting close to something that matters. Fear shows up when purpose is near. It shows up when you're about to do something that matters. So don't retreat from it. Lean into it. Let it be confirmation, not contradiction. Let it be fuel, not failure. And here's one last hook for you. The longer you entertain fear, the more believable it becomes. The more you let it talk, the more it sounds like truth. But truth doesn't sound like fear. Truth sounds like power, love, and a sound mind. So it's time to take your authority back. It's time to stop letting fear narrate your future. Feel it, face it, and move anyway. Boldness isn't optional for the life you've been called to live. It's a requirement. And the world is waiting on the version of you that's willing to act even when you're afraid. Every time you hesitate, you are trading a piece of your future for a false sense of comfort. That's the truth most people won't tell you. You're not thinking it over. You're not being wise. You're delaying what heaven already cleared. And the cost of delay isn't just time, it's destiny. There are windows in life that don't stay open forever. When God tells you to move, He doesn't owe you a second opportunity. You can miss moments by mistaking them for something optional. And some people have been circling the same promise for years, not because they're unworthy, but because they've refused to act. Let me ask you, how long have you been saying, I'll start tomorrow, next week? When the timing's right, you said that last year. You said that when you were broke, and you're still broke. You said that when you felt stuck, and you're still stuck. Because nothing changes until you take action. God doesn't honor intentions. He honors obedience. You can't delay your way into elevation. And you can't procrastinate your way into purpose. Here's the hook. Every delay is a decision. You may not realize it, but every time you say not yet, you're saying no to what's next. Delayed action is not neutral. It's destructive. It corrodes your confidence, weakens your momentum, and confuses your calling. The longer you wait, the heavier the fear becomes. Delay doesn't reduce the cost of risk. It multiplies the cost of regret. Most people think they're waiting on clarity, but they're really just negotiating with fear. You want more confirmation, but God already gave you instruction. And now you're hoping He repeats Himself, but God doesn't waste words. What He said the first time is still true right now. Go. Move. Start. Obey. Stop acting like you're unsure. You're not confused. You're uncomfortable. And instead of stepping through that discomfort into destiny, you're building a case for delay and calling it wisdom. Let me tell you something that will shake your excuses. There is a cost to every moment you don't move. There's someone who needed what you were supposed to create. Someone who was assigned to the business you haven't started. Someone whose breakthrough is waiting on your obedience. So when you delay, it's not just you who suffers. Generations suffer. Because your calling was never just about you. Your voice, your gift, your idea. It's tied to people you haven't even met yet. And they're waiting on you to move. The enemy loves when you delay because delay creates doubt, and doubt breeds disobedience. Every time you hesitate, you give fear a seat at your decision-making table. And here's what you have to understand. Destiny is time sensitive. Not because God runs out of power, but because you run out of opportunities. Some doors don't stay open forever. Some assignments expire when you ignore them long enough. You don't want to wake up one day realizing the moment passed and you can't get it back. Here's another hook. The longer you wait, the smaller your dream becomes. Delay doesn't just pause your purpose, it shrinks your vision. You start lowering the bar to match your inactivity. You stop believing for the big things. You start convincing yourself that maybe average is okay, that maybe comfort is better than calling. And before long, you're living in a version of life that looks nothing like what God promised. Not because He